Welcome to Gist Dish TV, your ultimate gist corner. Before we dive into today's tense and highly talked about on-set drama, take a moment to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications, because stories like this don't stay quiet for long. The atmosphere on set that morning was already fragile. Call time had been announced clearly the night before, the schedule tight, the expectations even tighter. Everyone knew this was one of those days where every minute mattered, scenes stacked back to back, lighting changes timed to perfection, and a director known for precision at the helm. Yet, despite all the planning, the calm cracked the moment Sonia, Uche and Maurice arrived later than expected. It wasn't a dramatic entrance. No raised voices, no hurried apologies shouted across the set. In fact, that was part of the problem. They walked in composed, whispering to each other, smiling lightly, as though unaware that cameras had already rolled and several takes had been delayed. Crew members exchanged glances. A few assistants checked their watches again, disbelief written across their faces. This wasn't just about lateness. On a professional set, lateness sends a message, especially when everyone else has been seated, rehearsed, and mentally locked in. The assistant director quietly tried to keep things moving, signaling for a reset, but the damage had already been done. Focus had slipped. Energy had shifted. As Sonia and Maurice took their places, their conversation didn't stop. They leaned in toward each other between cues, murmuring comments that only they could hear. Occasionally, a smile would break out, sometimes a quiet laugh quickly suppressed. To an outsider, it might have looked harmless, two colleagues sharing a moment. To everyone else on that set, it was distracting. Actors waiting for their cues lost concentration. A supporting cast member missed a line. A camera operator had to pause mid-movement when a sudden chuckle ripped softly from the side of the frame. The room, once disciplined and quiet, now carried a low hum of irritation. That was when Deka the Great noticed. Known across the industry for his commanding presence and uncompromising standards, Deka did not raise his voice immediately. He observed. He watched the repeated interruptions, the subtle glances, the growing restlessness among the crew. When the director called for another cut, one that could have been avoided, Deka stepped forward. The shift was instant. He raised a hand, signaling for silence. Conversations died mid-sentence. The set, which had been buzzing moments before, fell into a heavy quiet. All eyes turned toward him. Sonia. Maurice. He called their names calmly, but there was still beneath the tone. They both looked up, expressions changing as they realized their attention was now firmly on them. Sonia straightened. Maurice stopped mid-gesture. The whispering ceased. "This is a working set," Deka said, his voice measured but firm. "Not a private lounge. No insults. No theatrics. Just truth, delivered plainly." He gestured around the room. "People have been here since early morning. Crew members are on schedules you don't see. Every delay affects lighting, sound, continuity. When you arrive late and then continue talking through active scenes, you disrupt more than just yourselves." You could feel the weight of his words sink in. Maurice attempted to speak, opening his mouth slightly, but Deka lifted his hand again. "Let me finish." The authority in that simple sentence left no room for argument. "This industry is built on discipline," he continued. "Talent matters, yes. Chemistry matters, yes. But respect is non-negotiable. When others lose focus because of side conversations, that is not chemistry. That is unprofessional." Sonia's face flushed. Her eyes dropped briefly before she looked back up, nodding once. Maurice's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, listening. Deka did not prolong the moment. He did not humiliate them. His warning was stern, precise, and public enough to make the point without crossing into disrespect. "Consider this a warning," he said. "We move forward now. On time. Focused. Or we pause production until professionalism returns. I do not want to repeat this conversation." With that, he stepped back. The silence that followed was heavier than any shouting could have been. Sonia and Maurice exchanged a quick look, not playful this time, but sobered. They murmured apologies, not to each other, but to the nearest crew members. Sonia adjusted her posture, eyes forward. Maurice took a slow breath, hands at his sides. When filming resumed, the difference was noticeable. No whispers. No side glances. Every cue was hit. Every line delivered with renewed sharpness. It was as though the warning had snapped the entire set back into alignment, not just the two at its center. Yet, behind the professionalism, tension lingered. During a short break later in the day, whispers circulated among the crew. Some felt Deka had been right, long overdue, even. Others wondered if the moment hinted at something deeper between Sonia and Maurice, something that had begun to blur the lines between personal connection and professional boundaries. Neither Sonia nor Maurice addressed the incident publicly. They stayed focused, avoided unnecessary interaction, and completed their scenes with precision. If there had been chemistry before, it was now carefully contained, redirected into performance rather than distraction. By the end of the day, the set wrapped on schedule. As equipment was packed away and people filtered out, the earlier incident lingered like an unspoken lesson. In an industry where reputations travel faster than press releases, moments like that do not disappear. They become quiet markers, reminders of where the line is drawn. Deka the Great did not bring it up again. He didn't need to. His message had landed exactly where it was intended. Professionalism had been restored. Focus reclaimed. But the question remained in the minds of many watching closely: was this just a one-off lapse, or a warning sign of something that could resurface if boundaries weren't maintained? One thing was certain: on that day, on that set, no one doubted who was in charge. And as Sonia and Maurice walked off separately at wrap, the distance between them spoke just as loudly as Deka's words earlier that morning. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Was Deka right to warn them publicly, or should it have been handled privately? We'll be watching closely, because this story may not be over yet.